And you may begin.
The test doesn't measure what you've learned in school.
It's totally different from what you're groomed to know.
It wasn't that I was scared of it. I just knew I wasn't going to do well.
You know, this isn't just about a test, it's about a vision of American society.
It meant something as though, like, this is the next step in your life. How are you going to get there? I have to kill this test. I have to kill it.
There was always sort of this idea that it's me against the Scantron, you know, if I can bubble in the right things, then I'll make it in the world.
There's nothing in this test, nor in the process, that you discover that's going to change you as a person.
Mathematics, science, being able to use the English language. These tests don't measure it, and they don't improve it. So why do they exist?
As a character, who is the SAT? That's a really good question. I like that. I think the SAT is a really interesting exam. In fact, I see it as a work of art. And there's something really kind of beautiful about it in its design. I love the creativity within the predictability. And I'm always very excited when a new test is released, so I can see how they've taken, the sample of concepts that are normally covered on the exam and inventing new ways of asking questions. The SAT is not a test of what you know, it's a test of how you think.
We call it the big test because the stakes seem really, really high. This is going to play a large role in my odds of getting into college. That's a lot to think about.
How did you do on the test? That is what your mom is going to share with my mom in the vegetable aisle of the grocery store. So it's not the process of learning that's important, it's how did you do on the test?
I like the SAT. I feel like I really like that method of thinking, or that's how my brain works or something. So, I mean, I'm lucky in that way.
The SAT test can be very daunting and scary, and
I think all the adjectives are just
you grab the SAT. It's almost like, why are we taking it? But I know we should, but I don't understand. So it's just a whole slew of emotions.
On Sunday, the one day that you actually have to relax and do like what you actually enjoy, you have to then now go study for the SATs and take a practice test and go downtown and disrupt your day. It's kind of horrible.
Hey, how are you? Hi, I'm Chris. How are you? I'm just fine. Pleasure. Nice to meet you. Hi, I'm Chris. Hey, how's it going? Yes, please have a seat. Welcome. I got this score report from your parents and have done a lot of work on it. We're going to talk about it today. But before we even get into all this, I want to just talk to you just about you, get a sense of where you are, what you want to be doing, what your goals are.
The best place I could possibly go would be like MIT or one of those like really big schools. I didn't do very well the first SAT I took, and I was very disappointed.
So that one question wrong cost you 2 raw score points.
But I'm not just going to let some like stupid test stand in the way between me and a college that would be right for me.
When it comes down to the last couple of questions, if you have it down to 2, you want to choose the less familiar word, because they're looking for people to get that question wrong. Of those 2 choices, which choice has words that are more familiar to most people?
What is intelligence? It's very hard to say. It's not just verbal and math intelligence, but it's interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligence. It's artistic intelligence. It's kinesthetic intelligence. It's musical intelligence.
How does memory interact with judgment and decision making? How does emotion come in and affect our cognitive processing? I mean, we are amazingly complex creatures.
Rather than intellect being a single thing, which IQ tests purport to measure, and SATs are kind of a souped up IQ test, I think people have a number of different cognitive abilities. And you can be, say, strong with language, average with math, low with music, or vice versa. And strength in one intelligence simply doesn't predict whether you're going to be strong in other kinds of intelligences.
In conversational lingua franca of the world I live in, everybody believes there's this thing called IQ that measures how smart you are.
The origins of the SAT are much contested. There are different books offering different interpretations of the birth of the SAT. There are some who see its birth and growth as an equity measure. Remember, once upon a time, colleges gave their own admissions tests and would only invite to take them those students who graduated from elite high schools.
Could we enable what they called then the diamond in the rough to be able to rise and demonstrate that they have the capacity to earn admission?
But there's a whole other interpretation of it. Every time higher ed has expanded, there have been some saying, you're letting in those people? The hope was that these tests would show that, in fact, immigrants weren't as capable as others.
The first test was given at Harvard in '26, and it's pretty amazing. You can go into the National Archives and see this test, and it's so obscure and abstract and challenging, and the vocabulary is through the roof.
The person who had this social vision was James Bryant Conant, the president of Harvard. If you're in the top 1/10 of 1% and you have the kind of mind and the kind of skills that show up on an SAT, the system will find you. You will not spend your life walking behind a mule and a plow. You'll go to a fancy college on scholarship. That's done. That's a check mark.
Our system of public education in the United States is one of the unique features of the free society we have developed on this continent. We may speak of it as uniquely democratic in its nature.
What should we study to get ready for this test?
Well, George, this really isn't the kind of a test that you can study for.
The people who brought you the SAT didn't have a commercial bone in their body. So they weren't like a plot to make money. There was much more interesting story of a sort of crackpot utopian scheme. But as has become obvious, it's easy to take these kinds of ideas and put them in a business or economic setting.
More than 100 years ago, the College Board began with an idea that American democracy was at risk because privilege, rather than merit, might rule our country. And they developed the first set of shared admissions exams.
Is it possible to design a test that somehow drills down into your brain, gets into your DNA, and tells someone else, this is what you got in you?
Here's what this comes down to. Ready?
Yeah.
It comes down to this. Do you trust your instincts? Do you trust the strategies? Because if you do, the answer is obvious.
The College Board, often with the SAT, tried to at least give the impression that they were measuring some sort of essence of intelligence. Some of the testing experts talk about a thing called G, which is some sort of an entity that exists mysteriously in individuals.
There's the general mental factor G, which is that thing which the IQ test is designed to study. And so you talk about a good IQ test having a high G loading. Something that the College Board has never published is the G loading of the SAT.
What is G? Is it ability? No. Is G reasoning ability? No, not really. Is G reasoning ability in academic context? Maybe. And the real answer, because I've pushed very hard to get that answer, because I used to have to defend the test, is G is G.
I'm basically trying to teach them not to think. I'm trying to remove all thinking from the process and make it frankly unemotional. We have a task. The task is a score. Let's say it's 2100, let's say it's 1800, whatever it is. Our job is to figure out within the landscape of the test where we're going to find those points.
The SAT really goes against a lot of what I think a lot of people stand for. Yet it's this huge thing. It's like, what'd you get? What'd you get? You know, even like the parents who are like my hippie friend parents, were all like, what'd you get on the SAT? You know, what'd they get? It's got this power, and it means something, and it's kind of disgusting. But at the same time, as a parent, I'm like, you know, what'd he get? What'd he get? You know.
Before World War II, American higher education as a whole wasn't aspiring to educate everyone who deserves to come in.
I confer on you the first degree in arts or in science and admit you to the fellowship of educated men.
The GI Bill transformed American higher education. All of a sudden, enrollment boomed everywhere.
The university is being called upon to educate previously unimagined numbers of students.
California, post-Second World War period, the SAT became a national reality. The point was that Berkeley wanted to show that it was a public Ivy. And a way to show that it was to use the same admissions tests that those other institutions were using.
The unstated selling pitch for the SAT to a typical big American state university was, if you want to be more like Harvard, order the SAT for your students.
All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. As most of you know, I'm Akil Bello, test prep veteran going on my 25th year. Thanks for joining me. We're going to have a fun-filled conversation about the impact of the SAT and what it means for all of our students.
We have these strategies. We give them
finite steps to say this is exactly how you tackle this in a way that you would have never come up with on your own.
The reading on any of these standardized tests, from ACT, SAT, LSAT, has nothing to do with school. In school, you read a novel, you discuss the motivations of the character. There is, like, parents are always like, should I make my child read 5 books this summer to get their reading? And I go, no. Why don't you both read an article from Time magazine, and then you quiz the kid about what they just read?
They score less well than they expected to. And if you demystify it and say to them, look, this isn't because of some flaw in you. This isn't because you're not as smart as you think you are. This is because this test is a strange instrument that you've never dealt with before. And the claim to authority behind this test is deeply problematic.
I mean, the SAT and the ACT, they depend on the very top schools using the test, but then those top schools have these really fine-tuned hierarchies against each other that are based on 20 points. Right. This school has an average score that's 1 question out of, 100 higher than the other.
A lot of the pressure that comes on these students is that without this type of advanced preparation and ability, you will not live a good life. That's in the end what drives it. It's why we can all charge what we are able to charge. But maybe...
Compare and contrast, identify the point, identify supporting evidence. I mean, these are formal skills. Formal skills are not education. They are things that you can do if you have the education, but they're not actually a substitute for the education itself, and they shouldn't be mistaken for education itself.
When you look at the test long enough, it's almost like you're not, I don't know, you kind of like distance yourself from the actual material on the test and start looking in terms of patterns. Where it becomes less of, I know all this from school and now I'm going to apply these concepts to this question. It becomes more of, I've seen this question before, I know this pattern, I can figure out what they want me to say.
It's very tricky. Each question you have to really think about, are they tricking me or are they asking me something that's objective?
I've said in a classroom, this is not algebra class, I am not teaching you algebra. Because I know on a multiple choice test, I can actually get them around nearly all the algebra on the test. And if I were a school teacher, I wouldn't do that.
I don't cover subject matter. I just get them to learn how to look at a problem a different way. It's not a math test, it's not a reading test, it's a get the answer test.
My tutor one day just looked at me and she's like, honestly, this is the correct way to solve this problem, but you can always just substitute 1 for every variable and then solve the equation, which is horrible math. But as soon as I started doing that, my time for math questions went way down.
Yes, I'm curious what your response would be to groups like Fair Test that say the SAT isn't necessarily a good predictor of college success.
The SAT is about as good a predictor as
my feeling about standardized tests such as the SAT and the ACT are that they're valuable. As a scientist, I couldn't believe elsewise. I believe that they add information, they add validity, but I also realize that they don't measure as truly as we as measurement professionals would like them to do. I think we've created a generation of students that are used to taking tests and being measured by their performance on tests.
What does it encourage kids to do? What does it encourage kids to learn? What does it encourage schools to teach?
I want you to be able to look at this problem, do it the easiest, simplest, most accurate way, quickly, and move on. I don't care about your scope of knowledge. I care that you know enough to select the correct answer in the easiest, quickest way possible.
One of the troubling aspects to the test, and it's troubling for test makers, ACT and SAT people talk about this all the time, is that essentially in order to be efficient with the test, we essentially have to set out to trick people. Number one, we speed the test. We make you do it fast. And then when we ask you a question, we give you a variety of answers many of which are partly true. We want you to pick the one that's more true than the others. So under stress, in a time-constrained environment, we're trying to trick you.
Someone who says the SAT is valuable because it has tricks and traps in it and you have to learn to deal with that is saying, in effect, what we really want is a straight-up IQ test.
I always had a feeling that, being good at the SAT was like a video game. And, my son, he loved video games and he used to play World of Warcraft and Halo, and he'd be shooting or doing whatever he was doing on the video game. But out of the corner of the eye, he'd always have to watch for who was coming out of, this end or that end. Like, you had to be doing your thing, but aware of everything coming from the different angles. And that is how the SAT is.
Here is the ultimate question of your readiness for college. Does England have a 4th of July? 5 seconds. Answer the question. You just said no. You've just failed.
The two answers are almost the same. Then the student will swear they're the same. And I always tell the kids, when you're seeing two choices, what's your percentage of being right? And they all tell me 50%. And I say no. 10%. If you're seeing two answers, the test maker's already won.
A lot of times I would always choose the second best answer, and I would go to the back of the book and they were like, this answer was good, but this one below it, B, was better than D because, and then they would explain it, and then I'd be like, wow, this is a really bad explanation, but I guess that's how they want me to think.
So who was president of the United States when Pearl Harbor was bombed? Now, let's say you had 4 choices. The person who says Franklin Delano Roosevelt has it right. Someone who puts Franklin Delano Roosevelt Jr. might say, taking the test, maybe he was junior, maybe this is a trick. The person knows it was FDR, needs to be rewarded for that. But, it's a small difference. The person who says Harry Truman has the right world war is off by one president and by a few years. That's much more knowledge than we have of the Peloponnesian War. The person who says George Washington is lost. There's no doubt about that. And more has to be done to get that person to figure out the sequence of history. But the other 3 answers do not allow, in a zero-sum game, for the approximation of knowledge. And that's a crime in a teaching environment.
Millions of high school students will be tossing and turning tonight thinking about tomorrow's SAT test. But one young test taker says he's cracked the code, figured out a simple step to game the system and get a higher score.
It was just sort of one of those urban legends or rumors that goes around that, the longer essays get the higher scores. And so I decided to see if that was true.
Milo says out of 115 samples, longer essays almost always garnered higher scores.
The surprising part was how significant it was. The chance of this result coming up randomly and not being the result of an actual significant correlation was, I think it was 10 to the negative 18.
Turns out there is some very grown-up support for Milo's conclusion.
I did what any good MIT nerd would do, which is I counted the number of words.
Tonight, how to ace the SATs. An MIT study found that longer essays got better scores regardless of any errors they contained. So remember, facts don't matter. Just lots and lots of words.
Grammar, essay. So here's the essay. Let me find the example. All right, this is so silly. When I went crazy, when I went big, I've got a perfect score on the essay. I've got a 12. One example of a man who embraced the wisdom of his elders was Barack Hussein Obama, famed revolutionary of the Basque region. Young Obama unified the Basque populace, seeking to overthrow the tyranny of Franco, nationalist totalitarian demagogue. Obama, during his 6 months he spent in jail, after this first failed coup attempt, came in contact with a seasoned revolutionary, Winston Churchill. With Churchill's support, young Obama was able to unify the masses, instigate a popular revolution, and liberate the Basque nation from Franco's control. So that was a perfect 12. That was a perfect score. And yeah, my vocabulary was strong, my sentence structure was complex, but my examples were insane. But that was perfection, because you're not measured on your facts.
There was a phenomenal moment where he was on a hard vocab problem, and it was really interesting watching him. He was struggling. It took him like 2 minutes, which is like an eternity, right, to figure out what to do.
30 seconds left.
Because he was sort of swinging back and forth between trusting his instincts and trusting the strategies. And it was like a defining moment in many ways, at least for me, because I was like, the way he handles this moment is going to tell me a lot about how he thinks about what we're doing, about how he trusts me as a guide, and also himself as what's the right move for him, given the context of where he is. And, to his credit, he trusted the strategy, got the question right.
All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Corey McBride. I like to tell people I'm Harlem born, Harlem bred, and when I die, I'll be Harlem dead. You all are pretty decent students, a B plus or more. What was your first reactions when you saw your scores?
Inquiring minds want to know. When I took the SAT, I walked in like, and came out, like, this thing was easy. It was like taking an easy math test. I got back that score, I was like, what happened?
My parents always say that, they want me to do better than they did because they didn't get to go to college. My mom didn't get to finish college.
Because my parents, they came here, it's like, I have to, go from 0 to 100 real quick. Yeah, that's what I have to do.
They're investing in your future, but I don't know if I'm that good of an investment. Yeah. I'm not perfect. I can't bring home perfect score after perfect score after perfect score. So, I want to be able to, pay them back and make sure that it's just my mom, but to make sure that she has, a good life in the future and that I can help her and support her how she supported me.
One of the first things that colleges look at are the numbers. They may not know the student, they may never see the student, but what they do see are the numbers.
My older cousin, he's a lawyer now. People look at him completely differently because he's this black kid from Florida who went to Miami University, and they look at him completely different. So just knowing that being somebody who's black, comes from a low income community, it's a huge thing to go to college.
Well, in this day and age, a high school diploma is not gonna get you that far.
I don't want to put my parents through the stress of finding me a tutor. People from our background, you will never spend money on the test prep, but you'll go get yourself a book, you'll read that book, and then that's it.
The questions may have been a little confusing. I've had students say, like, I'm not sure exactly what they're asking me for, or isn't there a simpler way that they can ask the question?
I didn't want my mom to pay for a tutor because, I mean, can we afford that?
Yeah. If someone wants to invest in you, let them invest.
Some people like prepare for the SAT since they're like, I don't know, since they're like 5 years old, like it's exactly like fresh out the womb. They already have a study guide, they have this, they have a tutor already in their crib, like they already have everything.
I don't want to be in like this crippling student debt. I don't want to have to be on my deathbed having to write out the check for this college. Some people, they're studying for the SAT since 6th grade. And like after they take it, it's not going to help them. Like what are they going to do with learning all the strategies and all that?
The person who actually wrote the SAT was a psychometrician named Carl Brigham. He was an important member of the eugenics movement. In fairness to Brigham, everybody in his sort of class believed in eugenics in that moment in American history.
He did something that's very rare in academic fields. He published a series of articles that repudiated almost all of his previous work. The Educational Testing Service named their library after him. But he was smart enough and a good enough scientist and a good enough academic to see the horrors of what he had helped create.
And this is sort of like SAT crack, right? I only show the people the right moment, okay? Usually later in a program, but I think it's actually apropos here. Because if you're someone who's coming to the end of a section and you're targeted to get a question right and you don't have a minute and a half to do it, I'm going to show you something that works reliably, although you have to be very careful when you use it. Black magic. This is a tool to help you eliminate answer choices based on visual patterns, okay, in the numbers. And the reason why it can be very powerful is because the test makers try to like kind of camouflage the right answers. Sometimes you can break the code and get it right without even looking at the question itself. So here's the first rule. Look for patterns of 3 and eliminate the oddballs. Choose the choice closest to the middle. So here we go. We got 1 over 108, 1 over 54, 1 over 27, 1 over 18, 1 over 16.
I think they're all, except for 1 over 16, they're all multiples of 9.
And that means that E would be out.
27 is not a...
Even number, so this is out for you. All right? What's another obvious difference? That isn't the pattern.
108 is
3 digits.
Greater than 100, yeah, or it has 3 digits, yeah.
It has 3 digits and everything else has 2, so guess what? That's out as well. So now it's down to B and D. Okay. So what I see here is I've got 0, 5, 2, 1, and 1. I've got 2 1s. And I have 3 non-1s.
Oh, okay. So the answer would be B?
54.
That's like really strange that that sort of strategies actually work. Like that's, huh.
Look at your face. It works a lot more than you probably imagine it does. We use this when we encounter something on the exam. We don't know what to do. We're unsure. We really can't find a way into the problem, and we know we have to get this point.
One morning, he came in and he said, I was taking the SAT last night. And I said, huh?
We had a meeting back in Washington where the College Board made a presentation to this committee on testing. I felt that there was too much of an emphasis on the concept of innate intelligence.
Then he said, what the hell are these analogies? And so I said, well, the analogies assess a person's deep understanding of the English language. And he looked at me and he said, what theory of cognitive development justifies that bullshit?
I mean, a scale that goes out to 1,600 points to measure your ability, it's just ludicrous. We don't have that level of precision.
When you're dealing with people in public life, for participating in public life, their motives can be very complicated.
There was my granddaughter. She was in 6th grade at the time, and on her desk was a pile of books on verbal analogies. And when I asked her, what's this all about? And she said, I'm preparing for the SAT. And I thought, God, in 6th grade, this is what she's doing.
The fact that it came from him made such a difference. For him to make the case that people should get away from that old, truly incorrect, empirically incorrect approach to standardized tests.
His thinking on this is very clear and unerring.
But we still don't have a good enough understanding of the nature of the mind, how it evolves, how it operates, how it's different from one person to another.
He had a yellow pad that he would keep in his desk drawer, and he would just start writing down little sentences, and then he would revise, elaborating, reformulating, and he kept doing that over and over and over again.
Richard Atkinson, then the president of the University of California system, and with a PhD in measurement science, he's a cognitive scientist, stood up before the American Council on Education and said the University of California is going to drop the SAT.
I concluded what many others have concluded, that America's overemphasis on the SAT is compromising our educational system.
Finally tonight, the debate over scholastic aptitude tests.
The world of testing college applicants was rocked by an announcement from the president of the University of California.
Contending that standardized college tests have distorted the way young people learn and worsened educational inequities.
Dr. Atkinson says it doesn't test anything. That's just not true.
In 1996, it dropped the name altogether and said that the SAT was the SAT and that the initials no longer stood for anything. Rather than resolving the problem, this rhetorical sleight of hand served to underscore the mystery of what the SAT is supposed to measure.
What is this test? What is it testing? How are we using it?
The central question he was raising was, how should we define merit in a democracy?
The response by defenders of the SAT is, don't shoot the messenger. In many ways, we're caught up in the educational equivalent of a nuclear arms race.
His speech sent ripples throughout the community that are still going, in fact. People reference that speech and that the process that led up to that speech constantly.
I had not met Atkinson at that point, and I read about the speech, and I thought, wow, this is great.
No one is spared, not teachers, not parents, not admissions officers, not university presidents.
Wouldn't the SAT give you a baseline?
All of us knew how smart he was. This was a man who thought about it and really understood what we did. He understood test making, and he'd come to this conclusion. That was more sobering because it was a judgment. It was a judgment on the rest of us who understood. And I think we all felt it.
The College Board was surreptitiously trying to scuttle Dick's initiative, hoping that he would retire soon. This is the College Board's basic strategy. They just wait people out.
It was the case that a number of admissions officers were recruited by the College Board to write op-eds and the like attacking the position that was taken in that speech. But I think that's the nature of the world, and I should have anticipated that. I didn't quite anticipate that.
I first started teaching SAT 1993 because I had a second child. I needed a second job. And then I found out that the emperor had no clothes. And I said, oh, we didn't know that a few years ago. This is kind of interesting. SAT is going to go away in a few years because everybody's going to figure out the emperor has no clothes. What was amazing to me, and it amazes me to this day, is that They did find out the emperor had no clothes, and instead of saying, oh gosh, the guy's naked, oh how embarrassing, they said, hey, let's test more. I have never understood it, and I never will. I think it's over my head.
And it all feeds into the supremacy of the U.S. news rankings, right? Which affect college behavior in such appalling ways. Right, where colleges have to constantly worry about their U.S. News ranking, and so they can't accept lower standardized test scores because it will drop their ranking.
So try being the director of admissions at an Ivy League or equivalent school, and in 1 year you were more holistic about it, or you weren't watching those scores really closely, and now your average score of the admitted kids went below 3 of your competitor
But I don't
schools.
think they would. But see,
See
I don't
what
think they would have
happens.
right, but they would never take their eyes off.
It's an American conceit that speed and profundity are the same thing. That someone who is facile and quick is necessarily better.
Maybe I'm giving the test maker too much credit, but I'm assuming that their goal is to get them to look at the question and go, what are they talking about?
I asked my mom, like, who the heck is this guy? And she was like, oh, it's the SAT tutor.
He was an unlikely SAT tutor looking person. No one gave me his resume. I have no idea if he attended college, nor would I care.
Doesn't have an office, doesn't have a card, doesn't advertise.
You can just tell he has something about him that he can impart to my child, who will hopefully do better on these tests.
I don't think I ever asked Greg a question about what prepares you for this job, what success have you had.
You guys play sports?
We ride horses.
I sort of try to relate everything to a sport.
Okay.
Because if you think school, then you're gonna, I want you to think how you learned how to ride a horse.
He always says this, you're overthinking.
He's like, no, you can't think like that. Yes or no, right now.
How come I've had 4 tutors and no one's ever taught me that?
Because I have never learned how to do it by going to a class. I learned how to do it by dealing with a bunch of idiot kids.
Well, with Greg, I think, I would say he's basically a genius. So,
I'm pretty sure he actually is a certified genius.
When it comes to questions, he dumbs it down for even the stupid people.
That's all I do. Get them to think that they know what they're doing.
The entire test is just a game to him.
You get 5 right, you hit your goal. 5 easy questions, but you get them right, you hit your goal. So you're happy, which gives off a chemical in the brain that causes it to go better and faster. Video gamers know this like crazy. Then you play level 2, next 5. Boom. Puts your brain into the higher gear to get the next 5. Now you're king. You're at 640. You got 550 before. Wow.
If I have any kind of hesitation, just skip.
Ta-da! Okay. Listen to the doubt.
Okay.
My job is to regulate the amount of fear. I'm evaluating them, not the test, not anything else. I'm evaluating what I think they can and can't do. Show me 300. Move your pen.
Oh, I just realized that's the degree of the...
Now keep going.
Okay.
I get them to start going back to when they were 3, 4, 5 years old, when they learned by curiosity. If it's not fun, it's not memorable. Yes! I gotta start seeing the glint of something, okay? And then that's when I tell them, because especially with his, 4 hours, that's all it is. Join the dark side for 4 hours, because you don't have to do this all the time, you just have to do this. If you want all of this stuff, this test is in the way.
I've worked on the skills and I've been doing practice. It's just not really seeming to make a huge difference. I've been in honors math since I was in 7th grade. And my score goes down 80 points. How is that even possible? I just don't get it. Greg always tries to get me to go fast. He's like, you're too slow, you need to move on, but I don't want to move on until I've proven to myself that I know the answer's right. I have a lot of friends that are in the same boat. I know I'm not the smartest kid in my class. It's just a fact. I'm okay with that.
We've got it. You're seeing the 2015 rankings first on CBS this morning. Brian Kelly is editor of U.S. News and World Report. Listen, a lot of people are ranking the colleges and universities, but after 30 years, I'm thinking you all are the gold standard.
Well, thank you. I'm going to agree with you on that. I appreciate that. Yeah. A lot of people want to get in the rankings game. The New York Times came out with a new ranking today of
We rank up here because we only take students with SATs this high.
We survey all these colleges. We ask them 700 questions. We have 2,500 data points.
It is a cycle. There are a number of stakeholders, and no one can actually justify it from first principles, but we seem to be trapped in it and no one knows how to get us out.
Small things matter when you get into the top of the pack.
Even people who say they don't care somehow care. I mean, we're rewarded for it. We're rewarded for a certain number of statistics that we can trot out to our bosses or to the public. How many applications, how many kids do you turn down? And anyone who says, oh, but that's not a real measure of what we want to do or what we're doing here, you're just told you're naive.
I do really well in school, I just don't do really well on the tests. Like, he's super good at it. I don't particularly think he's smarter than me.
Well, she has way better. She has better grades than me. I knew I couldn't have better grades in our class, and so I had to go for the best test score.
Yeah, it's basically a skill, and I don't really have it.
I once had an op-ed in the New York Times, and I argued in the op-ed that tests like the SAT should be untimed. And I said, you know, there are very few jobs in which you really need to do things timed, like maybe a surgeon or an airplane pilot, and there'll be plenty of hoops for that. But if it takes somebody longer to do the SAT, what's the problem?
I'm going through this with my daughter, trying to find the right path for her. She's very smart. She can do very well on this test until you put a clock on her, and then she falls apart from the pressure.
One of the hardest questions to answer about some of the tests is the gender differences. It's something that has not been answered, I think, to the sufficient satisfaction of anyone in research or measurement.
It wasn't that I couldn't do it. I can't say that I failed because I didn't get a terrible score. It's just that I wasn't getting what was expected of me, I guess. Because if you look at my grades and you look at other things that can measure your intellect, it wasn't matching that number that you get on the SAT. And I think that because it's the test, you assume it has to, because it has to match everything else that you are capable of. And if it doesn't, then, you know, you're either not capable of those things or the test has to be wrong. And you have to pick which one is it.
How does an admissions officer, looking at that very good score, the 750 math SAT score, how do they know whether the kid took that cold going in the first time, or after a $100 course in their high school, or $1,200 from Kaplan, or $50,000 because their parents hired a tutor? What does it mean, that 750? Is it a good score because somebody's really bright, or because somebody's really well trained?
You think about those people whose brain work differently. As an example, the girl who comes out and says, my brain doesn't work like this, Dad. I can't think like this.
And it's crazy that this SAT score means so much to people. So it's like, but what about the other side of me? Am I just a number?
When I was brought in 13 years ago to the school that I'm at, our school was lacking in terms of how they were scoring on the SAT. And since I've been there, we have added test prep. I've put an emphasis to families that you need to do it. If you can't afford it, we'll find a way to help you do it. The idea of taking practice SATs, we do it all the time as a community. And I think as a result, our scores have done better, and as a result, our college admissions has done better. Like it or not, that's what's going on.
I do see that this test itself takes skill. So it's all about speed and strategy. So it's not like there's no value to it. Like it does show something, but nothing about me.
ACT, old SAT, old SAT, new SAT. In my opinion, no good English teacher would analyze a text that is in alignment with the way any of those tests ask questions.
And right off the bat, at the end of the day, the single greatest indictment of this test, or any of these tests, is now and always has been that every single one of us at this table can raise a score.
Absolutely.
In 6 weeks, I can raise a score. If this test taught anything meaningful, that would not be the case.
Right. A lot of these parents come to me and it's like, how do I get my kid into the Ivy League? Is not only about like, yes, it's, these tests are gameable, we can get your kids' scores up. It's about questioning whether or not you should be part of that particular system at all.
You can defend the test as it gives us a clean number. We like that. It seems to be a national and in that sense more objective standard. We like that. It seems to provide for opportunity, and we like that. All of these are narratives that Americans embrace. It's just on every single point, it's a myth. On every single point, it's not true.
So me for the SAT, I went up about 250 points.
It was like 200 points higher than my first time?
Like 400 points.
I think about 150 total across the whole test.
Princeton Review opened the doors to the test prep industry by saying, we're going to teach you magic, right? That was the marketing pitch. We're going to teach you magic. Until that point, it was still perceived to be an aptitude test, much like an IQ test, that you couldn't actually learn. You either had it or you didn't. And Princeton Review opened the floodgate to anybody can do this test with the right understanding.
I remember when John Katzman kind of introduced us to the Princeton Review. We thought, of course, he was evil because he was destroying the myth we had that we had this instrument that could level the playing field and tell us something about a person's mind rather than background or the luck of the teachers he had or the parents he had. And he was telling us, oh no, this is a game. We figure this out.
It's incredible to me. Like I figured as soon as people really start understanding this, we'll go on and get rid of the SAT and start doing something that makes more sense. And here it's as popular as ever, actually more popular in terms of the number of students taking it.
We didn't want to believe him. It sounded cynical, but it was proved to be right.
I don't know any people personally that had tutors for the SAT, but I've seen videos about the SAT and seen the tutors and what they do, and I know it's very expensive.
Families that will spend thousands of dollars in SAT prep, it's just discouraging that the money is going to this organization, but they're making all of our educational institutions, they're shifting them to that way to where you feel compelled to put this money into it and invest in it.
I mean, the College Board at one time said the test is so good, you can't prep for it. Then, when private organizations showed that you could, the College Board got into the business of prepping kids.
Once the College Board got our email addresses, it was like, bam.
Yeah, the SAT like pre-prep thing in like 10th grade, and then I just got spammed by like everyone.
Getting a high score on this one test literally changed my life forever.
Imagine getting admitted to the nation's top schools.
The key is using a great SAT and ACT prep
The
program.
Kaplan method will help you tackle all types of sentence completion.
Packed full of insider strategies and essential tips. There has now been a proliferation in this field where you have
thousands of shops. You can buy off the rack a book and a business card or flyer, you're good to go. You're a tutor. There's no accreditation, there's no anything. It's simply I scored well on this test, and can I undercut the pricing of the bigger shops?
Commercialization of college admissions is increasing. We have four $1 billion industries. They are the enrollment management consultant industry, high-priced consultants that schools hire to help them position themselves in U.S. News World Report rankings. And then you have the billion-dollar how to beat the system industry of guidebooks, etc. Then you have the billion-dollar test prep industry. Then you have the billion-dollar consultants for kids industry to help them get into those most selective colleges.
Please welcome to the stage our founder, president, and CEO, Mr. Stephen Ma.
What does SAT tell a school about you? Whether you're a good student or not? No, it doesn't tell people about that. If you take SAT on Monday and you take SAT on Tuesday, you might have a very different score. Your score might fluctuate 100 points. But Monday and Tuesday, it doesn't make you a different person. Just because your score fluctuates 100 points doesn't make you a different person, right? In fact, I was a very lousy student when I was in high school. I repeated pre-algebra twice. Our teacher called me in front of the whole class the stupidest student he has ever met. I didn't budge. I didn't complain. I felt that's who I was. I accepted it. I accepted the identity that I wasn't smart. I accepted the identity I was a loser. When I was in 10th grade, I met a teacher. Her name is Mrs. Allen. She's the person that single-handedly transformed my life. And she just showed me all the respect. She complimented me in front of the class. And to reciprocate that affection, I tried to do all her homework and try to perfect it, all her homework and grades. And I got my first A. So SAT is important. Now think back. When I was in 9th grade, I was called the stupidest student a teacher had ever met. When I was in 11th grade, I was called the genius of math and physics. What has changed? I hasn't changed. I'm still me, right? Stephen Ma hasn't changed. He hasn't eaten a magic pill. What has changed is his identity, is his horizon. Someone has made him believe that he could do more. And that is magical. If not with Mrs. Allen, I didn't know what I was going to be.
One of the main themes that I wanted to focus on today is what are some strategies for dealing with obnoxious problems.
My mom forced me to go to think tank. It's 4 hours a day, 4 times a week. But my score has been going up.
One of the ways that the SAT is tricky is that it tricks students to study in very inefficient manners.
I've paid so much for this tutoring, and I've also put so much time into it that if it doesn't work out this fall, then it's kind of like this summer just goes to waste.
I personally don't believe in those tests as a filter. It's just a hurdle that they have put between you and your success. We don't invent them, we don't like them, but it's there, and we have to defeat them.
The SAT, to do well on it, you need to, I think it's all about drilling yourself.
I have 20 different practice tests. It's just doing the same exercises over and over and over.
We have this money-back guarantee product. If I deem that you can get into a certain school, and if you don't make it into that school, then we will refund 100% of the money back that you paid to us back to you. And people sometimes want to engage in that kind of aggressive chance. And sometimes we want to take challenge as well. The higher chance you have to a certain school, the lower amount you pay us. It's like insurance policy, basically. The usual percent people get put on wait list. Senior consultant can take guaranteed price up to 50,000. COM can take guaranteed price up to 200,000. The service director can take guaranteed price up to $500,000. Anything above $500,000, I have to do it. Highest I ever charged is $1 million. $1 million. And so far, my batting average is pretty good.
Not everyone can take it. Not everyone can do well on the SAT. One person might not have those certain skills, but have another set of skills that are equally valuable. Albert Einstein, he once said that everyone is born a genius, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, he will spend the rest of his life thinking it's stupid.
It is sort of a mad rush to get access to these elite institutions. There is a sense the economy is not generating the jobs, the incomes, the prosperity, the well-being for everyone. It is not at all the case that a rising tide is lifting all boats.
I'm from the Outer Banks, so we're a fishing village, and my dad's a fisherman, and my brother has followed in his footsteps. But the fishing industry is dying.
My parents, they're both high school graduates, and so when they graduated high school in our community, it was fine for them because there were furniture factories and there were places to work. But now I look at my community and there are no furniture factories, there are no places to get a stable job.
Well, certainly the college application rat race has been fueled by the perception that there are fewer good jobs, that the lucrative jobs are concentrated in the finance sector. Whether or not that's good for the economy, it's certainly a perception of many people.
The bond rating agencies tend to use SAT and ACT scores to rate an institution's fiscal health. The president, the business officers, the trustees, anybody that has a stake in the fiscal health of that organization now is all of a sudden concerned about the SAT and ACT scores for some reason.
This contest of ideas, two very good ideas, has been at the center of the dialogue in Western nations since the 1700s. The idea of democracy, which was on the rise, the idea that people were equal in some sense, and nobody could figure out in what sense, except in some obvious ways, equal before the law was the first of it. And then the other idea that was very powerful at the time, and has been ever since, is the idea of capitalism, the idea of markets. It makes people inherently unequal, and capitalism can't work without inequality.
I was using my SAT scores to base where I should apply to, and I'm 50, 100 points away from that. There's no point in me applying.
If my SAT score didn't fit that range, I just nixed it.
Those test scores represent ranges, and to simply say the student doesn't have this score, they're not admitted, that's a misuse of the test.
In 1984, Bates made standardized testing optional for admissions. Every 5 years doing a periodic report on how the policy was working. One thing we've learned in our various research studies is that these are not standardized tests.
It was scary. You know, the test is huge in this country, and many of our alumni, many of our faculty doubted that we would be able to do it, doubted that we would still be able to attract top echelon students.
For a place that loves numbers, the WPI faculty were remarkably open to making admissions decisions without the benefit of test scores. We would be the first nationally ranked science and engineering school with a test optional policy.
If an institution's going to decide to go test score optional, then they're deciding to look at students differently. The students that submit test scores, the students that don't submit test scores. That part I don't get. I mean, the test is useful for the students that submit it, but not so useful for the students that don't. I don't see that.
What I like about having a test optional policy is that then the conversation changes.
If you feel the standardized test is a good representation of you and you want to submit it, go ahead and do that.
About 1 out of every 3 students who take that admissions test will have a discrepancy between their previous grades and that admissions test. And they will feel that the test is not fair, that it's not a true indicator of their ability. They may be right.
A large new study is challenging the value of these well-known standardized tests. It found that test scores did not correlate with how well a student did in college. We turn to its lead author, William Hiss.
Would we open up our applicant pools more? Would we see larger numbers of students who would succeed if in one way or another we de-emphasized the testing?
Even large public institutions dealing with many thousands of applications, institutions that are not well endowed, can do this.
We now have twice as many women applying and twice as many underrepresented minority students as was the case before we adopted a test optional policy.
So those scores are false negatives. Human intelligence is simply more complex, more fluid, more rich than these tests can capture.
I wasn't even going to apply to Wake because I thought it was too far out of my league. So they saw something, and I don't know how, but they did. And they gave me confidence by accepting me, and when I came in, I was able to do great things.
Maybe I would have never even applied. Maybe I would have said, you know, this school is too high for me. But it wasn't.
We are finding students without the use of standardized testing that are going to be successful in our community.
High scores on the SAT meant scholarship money, and I knew that I came from a single-parent household, and I know financial aid doesn't always cover everything. So finances were a big thing when it came for me getting into college. So the SAT, the higher the score, the more money you can get from different schools.
No school says, if you get this SAT score, we're going to do this. It's all just what we watch. We watch the friends of ours who get the high SAT scores get offered all this money. It's just from observation. I don't think it's like, I think it's much more secretive in that way.
If he gets his SATs up another, his math up another 50 points, does that mean he's going to, save $5,000 a year? That's going to be worth $20,000 over the course of an education. I mean, what's the formula?
It became an obstacle. The test became a gatekeeper. And it was doing, in effect, the very opposite of what it had been intended to do.
What it correlates to is your parents' income level, as opposed to your IQ or your ability to get good grades in college, or even your ability to get good grades in high school.
And it's all very passive. You don't need to be a racist or class-based to make it happen. It happens all by itself now.
There he is, Stefan Blair. How are you, sir? I'm good. How are you? Good. Welcome.
If a person's going to spend 10 hours a week preparing for the SAT, I'd rather have that person trying something really daring. Dance, acting. Science. To explore areas where the possibility of high achievement is low. But the possibility of personal growth is very high.
Wonder, being amazed by something, being curious about something, having a question.
If Harvard University and Columbia University and Yale and Princeton said no, this would come to an end.
What's stopping them? Since the Harvard Admissions Office and the Stanford Admissions Office and the Duke Admissions Office knows this to be true, why don't they drop the SAT? The conspiratorial side of me says they like the SAT having this role.
E5, 6, 7B, 8A, 9B. All right, this is terrific. In the 20 question section, in the first 10, we want 10 correct. You got 10 correct. Now the back end, we're looking for 9, I believe, per our targets. Dude, happy Mother's Day. 20 out of 20.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah.
This is
wow,
amazing.
That's really weird.
Why is this so weird?
Because I haven't performed that well before. So.
Well, here's the thing. We've been talking about what you need to do, right, in order to maximize your scores.
Yeah.
We need consistent focus through the easies and mediums, using strategy, more so than content, right? 760.
That's good, yeah.
It's quite good. Excellent. I love it.
The first step we take today in redesigning the SAT is complete openness. No longer will the SAT only have disconnected problems or tricky situations that students won't likely see again. It is time to admit that the SAT and ACT have become far too disconnected from the work of our high schools.
So my question is, if the old test is so bad, don't you owe the country an apology? You tested irrelevant words. You tested math that didn't matter, right? All of these phrases that they're using about what the old test did, then how do we trust you with the new test?
We recently announced that students' SAT scores in this country revealed that only 43% of US students are ready for college.
When we talk about the number of students who are likely to be college successful, you've got to take those numbers with a great grain of salt. Sometimes policymakers or folks who hope to sell tests or get the ear of policymakers will make unfortunate statements, will not listen to the folks in research who try to educate them and try to contextualize the scores.
We need to get rid of completely the sense of mystery and dismantle the advantages that people perceive in using costly test preparation to find out the secrets of the SAT.
These exact same claims were made 10 years ago that we're hearing today. The same two core techniques that we've been using for math for 30 years are, in fact, I would say that they are more useful than they were on this test.
This is the second edition of the official SAT guide, the one that is for the test that is going away. And right on the back of the book, the SAT is a logic test, is the myth, and then it says the reality, and I quote, the SAT does not test logic abilities or IQ. It tests your skills in reading, writing, and mathematics, the same subjects you're learning in high school.
That's part of what's so comical about this claim that we're doing this because both the SAT and the ACT are so disconnected from what's going on in schools. The way they test grammar now, ACT should be suing for copyright infringement. It is the exact same test.
No penalty for wrong answers.
This is the most blatant gambit for market share. Flat out, they threw in the towel and they said we can't compete with that.
Does it benefit students?
Again, it benefits those kids who are well coached and can use process of elimination. With 4 answer choices and no guessing penalty, completely screws up their data and their ability to identify a good functioning question.
What if 5 years from now, the people who are primarily anxious about the SAT are the teachers?
Right.
Like public schools in New York, most of them, and I presume elsewhere, kids are spending 3 months on test prep.
What worries me about it,
this time is that if in the past they've said we're going to change the test so it looks more like the high school curriculum, my worry now is that what they're going to do is change the high school curriculum so it looks more like the test. And to me, that's a disaster. Nobody should have to go to SAT class in the middle of their school day.
With the stroke of a pen, the president put America on a new education policy path called the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA.
When the new federal education law was signed, there was a provision in it that caught my eye. I noticed that ESSA encouraged something that the previous federal law didn't make any mention of, which is that at the high school level, if you're a state, you can consider using a college entrance exam like the SAT or the ACT for your high school level test for federal accountability purposes. That was new.
The SAT is a tool. It's not a system. Any test is a tool embedded in a larger vision.
For all we've said, this remains a test, a high-stakes one, and there will be anxiety. There must be.
It's spreading, it's infiltrating all things. There were always questions about the usefulness, validity, fairness of the SAT. Now we're going to increase its reach and its impact.
It distracts from the basic purposes of schooling. It's no help to teachers. There's no diagnostic power in the SAT or the ACT.
And so now it's not just the SAT and the PSAT. It's PSAT 11, PSAT 10, PSAT 9.
If states come to recognize, and students and teachers come to recognize, that the SAT or the ACT will be the ultimate measure of how well they're perceived to do, wouldn't it be reasonable to shape a curriculum that reflects what's on the test? And a lot of people will see that as teaching to the test.
A school teacher's job is not to take the SAT. A test prep person's job is entirely the SAT.
Well, I hadn't thought about this, but you're right. It is, we finally made it into the K-12 market, apparently. And not the way it was meant to be.
There was a time when we convinced ourselves that they were really meaningful. There was a time when we convinced ourselves that they were uncoachable, that the tests were uncoachable. And as those things were kind of blown out of the water, we never stopped holding on to them. Still haven't.
You can blame the test if you don't do well, or you can blame yourself or your tutor or your parents or whatever you want to blame. But at the end of the day, it's just those problems and those weird, tricky questions. It's not a measure of what a person can do. And I think that nobody wants to admit that because that's what it's supposed to be for. It's not supposed to be, here's a game that we are sending out to everyone to get into college because no one would take it.
How much integrity is associated with the test? I just don't know. I would hope that something that had as big of an impact on kids and their behavior and their sense of self-worth, etc., would have more educational value than the test seems to have.
You know the SAT doesn't stand for anything.
It blows my mind. Like this fact about it stands for nothing, and everybody thinks it stands for something. Like that's a deep cultural problem. Yet the public perception is sort of over and over again that it is measuring aptitude. So that goes to show what a corrosive influence it has on people's understanding of intelligence. It can't even make its own limitations visible. Like that's how powerful it is as a ritual.
Maybe that's exactly the kind of talent America really wants. The people who can do that exam. It's not what I value most, not what I teach, but what if that's exactly what makes this country what it is? Figuring that stuff out, being cagey rather than thoughtful. Maybe it does a good job of that. Maybe it's given us exactly what we want.